Hi Pisces, welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for November 2019. For you Pisces, this month is going to have some Mercury in retrograde activity in your ninth house of philosophy and worldview, along with some Mars activity moving through that house and some nice Venus stuff in your house of career. Julia, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, hey Pisces. Venus is going to enter Sagittarius on the very first day of the month, which correlates with your natal 10th house.
Mm.
So the 10th house is a career house, just like Jamie said. Also, it's the house of your public reputation, too. So when Venus enters the 10th, it's a really good time for getting along with people at work, or if you are any type of a public figure, let's say you have a big following on Instagram or something, that should be a good time too for just sort of gaining favor from the public at large. And if you do any type of artsy thing in your career, whether you design anything or your career has anything to do with aesthetics, because you are a pretty artistic sign, Pisces, that's going to be also a very fruitful period for you in career. And then when Venus enters Capricorn on the 25th, that's going to go into your 11th house, which is the house of groups and networks of all kinds. So that's a very social time for kind of getting out there and socializing with large groups of people, your cliques. And I've also noticed that the 11th house can deal with even technical networks like online dating. So I think that's a great transit if you're single. If you're single, to get out there and put your profile out online. And then the next planet I want to talk about is Mars, which is going to be in the sign of Libra when the month begins, which correlates with your 8th house. And the 8th house is a house of transformation. It's a very intimate house, too, and it also has to deal with shared resources. So you could be putting a lot of energy into some type of transformation that might be important to you in your life. That could be where your focus is, as well as a lot of focus on sort of increasing intimacy, perhaps also with your partner too. But Mars can have its edge to it as well. So it's definitely also be aware if any type of conflict might come up over shared resources, because that would correlate with that symbolism as well. And then Mars enters Scorpio on November 18th, which is your 9th house. And the 9th house is Jupiter's house. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion of all kinds, whether it's expansion of our minds or we're literally just kind of expanding our worldview by traveling, because all of those things have to deal with the 9th house. So when Mars is in there, you're going to want to be putting your energy to just going out and seeing the world, trying new things, maybe going on a trip. It's a very sort of freedom-loving transit, but if you feel kind of confined or you feel like anybody is limiting you in any way, it might bring out your Marsy side, which means a little bit of conflict too. And what else are you seeing this month too, Jamie?
Well, I'm just really focused in on that Mercury retrograde period that's going on in Scorpio this month. I think it's going to get pretty dicey for a lot of people. It's going to be pretty intense. Mercury retrograde is always a time when old stuff can crop up from the past. Exes appear and they've got something they've just got to talk to you about. It can be necessary and important to clear old communications that maybe didn't go right the first time. And sometimes, literal stuff happens, like office machinery breaking down or whole parts of the internet just stop working. So Mercury retrograde is a frustrating time at best for most people. And this particular one for you, Pisces, is happening in your ninth house, which, as Julia was saying, is a house of adventure. It's a house of mental expansion, of growth, and it's a house of one's philosophy or worldview. So you might be doing a lot of rethinking what does it all mean? What is really behind everything that we see in the world? And it's quite possible that some of the conversations that you're having, when they go deep, when they go intimate, may lead you back to these same lines of thought. What does it mean, and how should I live based on what it means? And if that sounds like big thoughts, it's because it is. Now, while Mercury is retrograde, it's going to do something that it typically does, which I like to call Epiphany Day. I call it Lesser Epiphany Day because there are two Epiphany days. An Epiphany Day is what I call it when Mercury conjuncts the Sun. The Lesser Epiphany Day is when Mercury does that while it's traveling retrograde or backwards. So Mercury going backwards, the Sun coming forward, the two meet in the middle in a burst of insight and aha. So clarity can descend on your head when Epiphany Day happens. And in this case, it might be that you were trying to solve some puzzle about what things mean, or get a greater understanding, or grow as a person because of some deep, heavy conversation that you've been having with somebody. And on that day, which is November 11th, the clarity comes that that just has the whole big picture fall together finally. Now, the very next day, we have a full moon in Taurus, which falls in your third house and opposite to the ninth house of greater philosophies. So, that ninth house is about big thoughts, whereas the third house is about little thoughts, little ideas, everyday stuff that we have to deal with. It's a more mundane part of the chart. And so I think that this full moon in Taurus is kind of a moment of respite, really, from all of those tidal waves of communication that are surging through and leading to such, far reaching consequences in your own mind. And so on the 12th, and really for the 3 days surrounding the 12th, you might feel like, I just want to settle down like this moon in Taurus. I just want to come back to the basics. I just want to come back to small things, little everyday things. I'm just going to do my routines. I'm just going to ground in my own body. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to have the light everyday conversations that aren't filled with this big heavy meaning. And that could be really restful for you, Pisces, on those days. Now, one thing that I want to say about this full moon that's really great, and it's also true about the new moon that comes later in the month, and that is that both of these moons are really loaded with harmony. There's not a lot of stress in these moons, and that's really good news because moons have a tendency to bring up a lot of emotion, full moons especially. They can be just very, they can be dramatic, certainly. And when there's a lot of harmony in these moons, then, and what I've been saying about that full moon in Taurus is you can have a catharsis and it doesn't even have to hurt. And that, I think, is going to be a lovely thing. Now, the moon that's happening later in the month is a new moon in Sagittarius. We know that because here they are, conjunct each other, nestled right around Pallas Athena there in the middle. And Sagittarius is a sign known for tolerance. It rules the ninth house that we were just talking about. There is that theme of expansion and growth and really universal brotherhood, you might say. And here it is happening in your 10th house. Now, new moons are times when we plant the seeds for new beginnings. And the 10th house is your career house. So I think that really during this new moon, Pisces, you could experience some very new beginnings, so new that it's hard to even tell what it's going to grow up into, but some very new beginnings of career directions that could enable you to grow and flower madly in the future. So this is a great moon for planting those kinds of seeds, and because it's Sagittarius, they should really be inclusive in their nature, meaning warm towards people who are different from yourself. I've been calling this the last party moon before winter because it's the time of the year, it's the season really when it's getting darker and darker. The nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter, and yet Sagittarius appears in this part of the year as if to say, have hope. The darkness won't last forever. We are going into the darkness, but we'll come out into the light again afterwards. And so this moon is really planted with that kind of hope. And Pisces, if you wanted to get a reading this month and you were thinking about that and wondered what kind of reading you wanted to get, I would say that a career reading, a mission orders reading, like Julia and I love to do, would probably be your best choice, because these new seeds in career, these themes that are going to continue actually into the next month and the month beyond, as Mercury moves into your 10th house in another month or two, um, would really, basically constitute a great time to look into your career and get it really sorted. And I think that's all we have for you today, Pisces. I hope you enjoyed it. You will find our horoscopes on pandoraastrology.com/horoscope. Also on pandoraastrology.com, you could add monthly-forecast and always find the news of the month. Our news videos are generally aggregated into playlists on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, and you can find the horoscopes there as well. And we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.